I will never forget the sound of the crying girl. It was soft at first, like a whisper. Then it grew louder, like a wounded animal. She was somewhere in the trees, hidden by the dark. I wanted to run, but my legs would not move. The prince had taken another one. Everyone in our village feared Prince Jumo. He was tall and had a deep voice that made your skin prickle. He smiled, but his eyes were cold. His father, the king, was too sick to rule, so Jumo did whatever he wanted. At night, he would ride into the village with his guards. He would point at a girl, and she would be taken. Some were never seen again. Some returned, but they never spoke. They just sat in their huts, staring at nothing. My sister, Lami, was one of them. She was only 14 when the prince chose her. That night, I heard her scream as they dragged her away. My mother fell to her knees, begging them to take her instead. The guards only laughed. Lami came back 2 days later. She was not the same. She did not eat, she did not talk, and she did not sleep. She only sat in the corner of our hut, her knees pulled to her chest. One night, I woke up and found her gone. We searched for her all day. We found her by the river. She had tied a rope to her waist and stepped into the water. My mother wailed, pulling her out, but it was too late. Lami was dead. The village elders went to the king. They begged him to stop his son, but the king was too weak to speak. The queen said nothing. The prince only laughed when he heard. "This is my kingdom," he said. "I will take what I want." The people were afraid. No one wanted to end up like Lami. So, they stayed quiet. But I could not stay quiet. One night, I followed the prince and his men. They rode into the trees, where an old hut stood. I hid behind a bush and watched. Inside the hut, I saw the girl. She was tied up. Her eyes were red from crying. The prince was smiling. Something inside me snapped. I picked up a rock and threw it. It hit one of the guards on the head. He fell with a grunt. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the prince turned. His eyes locked onto mine. I ran. The sound of hoofs pounded behind me. I tripped, rolling into a ditch. I pressed my body into the mud, holding my breath. The prince and his men rode past, not seeing me. That night, I went to the elders again. I told them what I had seen. This time, they did not stay quiet. The next morning, the people gathered. They marched to the palace, banging on the gates. They called for justice. The queen came out, her face pale. "Go home," she said. "You are making trouble." But the people did not move. They screamed the prince's name. They told the king everything. This time, he listened. The guards were sent to the prince's hut. They found the girl. They found others, too. The king was furious. He ordered the prince to be locked away. But before they could take him, he fled into the forest. Some say he was eaten by wild dogs. Others say he still roams, waiting for the night to steal another girl. I do not know what happened to him. But sometimes, in the dark, I hear the sound of hoofs. And I wonder if he is coming back.